the town of Vladimir, there lived a young merchant named Axel. He owned 2 shops and his own shop. A handsome fellow with fair curly hair, he was the life of the party and the first to strike up a song. When he was younger, Aksenov used to drink a lot, and when he had drunk too much, would get into brawls. But since his marriage, he had given up drinking, except for occasional lapses. One summer day, Aksenov had to travel to a fair at Nizhny. When he began to say goodbye to his family, his wife said to him,
Ivan Dmitrovich, don't go today. I had a bad dream about you.
Are you afraid that I'll go off on a bench at the fair?
I don't know myself what I feared, but it was such a strange thing that I dreamed. You had come back from another town and had taken off your hat, and I saw that your hair had gone completely gray.
That means there'll be profits. You'll see. I'll have good fortune and bring you rich gifts.
When he had gone halfway, he met a merchant friend of his and they stopped for the night. They drank tea together and went to sleep in adjoining rooms. Aksenov did not like to sleep long. He awoke in the middle of the night, and since it was easier to travel while it was still cool, he woke the coachman and told him to harness the horses. Then he went to the soot-covered cabin of the innkeeper, paid his bill, and left. After he had gone 40 versts, he stopped again, fed the horses, and rested on the front porch of the inn. At dinner time, he went out onto the back porch, asked for a samovar, took a guitar and began to play. Suddenly, a troika with ringing bells drove up to the inn. An official and 2 soldiers got out of the carriage.
Who are you? Where are you from?
Do you want to join the party?
Where you slept last night? Were you alone or with a merchant? see the merchant in the morning. Why do you leave the inn so early?
Why are you questioning me like this? I'm not some kind of thief or bandit. Traveling for my own business.
I am this police officer, and I am asking you this question because the merchant you stayed with last night has found his coat tag. Show me your desk. Search him.
They went into the cabin. Took out his suitcase and bags, untied them, and began to search.
Whose knife is this?
I don't know.
And why is there blood in this knife?
Then the officer said, "In the morning they found a merchant with his throat cut. There is no one besides you who could have done it. The cabin was locked from the inside, and no one except you had been inside. You have in your bag a knife covered with blood. And, in fact, guilt is written all over your face. Now tell us, how did you kill him? And how much money did you steal?" Aksinov swore that he did not do it. That he had not seen the merchant since they had drunk tea together. That the only money he had was his own 8,000 rubles. That the knife was not his. But his voice broke. His face was pale, and he shook with fear as though he were guilty. The officer called a soldier and told him to bind Aksinov and take him out to a cart. When they bound his feet and lifted him into the cart, Aksinov crossed himself and began to cry. They took away his bags and money and sent him to a jail in a nearby town. Inquiries were made in Vladimir to find out what sort of man Aksinov was. All the merchants and inhabitants of Vladimir noted that when he was younger, Aksinov drank and caroused, but that he was a good man. Then, he was brought to trial and charged with the murder of a merchant from Ryazan and the theft of 20,000 rubles. His wife was grief-stricken and did not know what to think. Her children were young. One was still at the breast. She took them all and went to the town where her husband was imprisoned. When she saw him in prison clothes, chained and with thieves, she collapsed and for a long time remained unconscious. Then she placed her children about her, sat beside him, and began to tell him about things at home and to ask about all that had happened to him. He told her everything.
And what now?
We must petition the Tsar. We cannot let an innocent man perish.
But I already petitioned and it was not allowed to reach you. It wasn't for nothing that, you remember, I dreamed of your turning gray. Look, you are already beginning to gray from grief. You should not have left. Vanya, my dearest one, tell your wife the truth. Didn't you do it?
And you two suspect me?
You have to leave now.
Goodbye.
When his wife had left, Aksinov began to think about all that had been said.
Clearly, only God can know the truth. And one must turn to God alone, and from God alone await mercy.
From that time on, Aksinov ceased sending petitions, ceased hoping, and only prayed to God. He was sentenced to flogging and hard labor. The sentence was carried out. They flogged him with a knout, and when the knout wounds had closed, they herded him along with other convicts to Siberia. For 26 years, Aksenov lived in Siberian servitude. The hair of his head turned as white as snow, and his beard grew long, thin, and gray. All his joyfulness vanished. He grew hunched, moved along quietly, spoke little, never laughed, and often prayed to God. While in prison, he learned to make boots. With the money he earned, he bought the lives of saints and read it when there was light enough in the prison. On holidays, he went to the prison church where he read the gospel, and since his voice was still good, sang in the choir. The prison officials liked Aksenov for his humility, and his fellow prisoners respected him and called him Grandpa and Godly One. When there were any petitions concerning prison conditions, the other prisoners always sent Aksenov to present them to the officials. And when quarrels arose among them, the prisoners always went to him to judge the case. No one from Aksenov's home wrote him, and he did not even know if his wife and children were still alive. One day, they brought some new convicts to the prison. In the evening, all the convicts gathered around the new ones and began to ask them what town or village they were from and why they had been exiled. Aksenov also sat down on one of the long elevated shelf banks near the new inmates and dejectedly listened to what they said. One of the new convicts was a tall, robust old man of about 60 with a clipped gray beard. He was telling of his arrest.